The following production is not made solely for children. Parental guidance is recommended. This is an AI-free video. In 2024, I posted a video showcasing my collection of train DVDs from Pentrex. Since then, I have received a lot more of them. This expansion is so big that I decided to make an updated edition to display my newest arrivals. Much has changed in the last couple of years, especially because I am sorry to hear that Railfan Depot announced the closure of its online store in February 2026. I'm Brian Rosa, and this is Rosa's Trains. I used to purchase many DVDs from Railfan Depot, and I had to take advantage of some closeout discounts before the store was gone for good. I ended up buying 4 DVDs, all produced by Pentrex. This is my very last purchase from this dealer. I sincerely wish its owner a pleasant retirement for a new chapter of his life. Happy trails. Of course, this was not the only dealer I bought train DVDs from. There is another one called Train Video Depot, the largest selection of train videos on Earth. Up until now, my sole DVD order was placed way back in December 2017. My goodness, that's almost a decade ago. Shortly after my final purchase from Railfan Depot, I was amazed to see an overstock sale from Train Video Depot. Now, since the sale has already passed, I won't tell you the discount prices, but this motivated me to purchase a total of 22 DVDs from no other producer than Pentrex. I just couldn't resist this extraordinary deal. So these are the big reasons you will see my updated train DVD collection. Just like my original Pentrex collection video, which I personally recommend watching before viewing this one, I'm going to list them in alphabetical order and do a short review for each. I should also mention that Pentrex has recently acquired an existing brand called Green Frog Videos, and I do have some DVDs from that producer, so I will showcase them as well. All aboard for my updated Pentrex collection. First up is Above the Rails Combo. It features 2 programs, Above Southern California Rails and Above 3751 over Cajon. Imagine being a camera crew member taking a helicopter ride to record footage for such a specialized train DVD. The first program shows a compilation of BNSF freight trains as well as Amtrak's Pacific Surfliner and even a single Cascades Talgo train set on its way to Washington State. Now, considering that the recordings were done in the helicopter, you would think that it produces a lot of noise, but no, you can still hear the train sounds, from the roaring diesel engines to the clickety-clack of the rails, and of course, their blasting horns. The other program presents Santa Fe number 3751, a Baldwin-built 484 Northern steam locomotive. Even above ground, you can still hear the chugging and the whistle. Everybody loves steam. The next DVD is another combo, Along the Hudson Division. The first program has the same title as the DVD itself, and the second is Amtrak's Turbo Train cab ride. Since its creation in 1971, Amtrak initially operated the dual-mode FL9 diesels that were originally built by Electromotive for none other than the New Haven Railroad. There are several cab rides aboard these unusual F units. Metro-North also operated its own FL9s, and both railroads continued using these locomotives until the General Electric P32 ACDM units replaced them. The turbo trains, technically called the RTL Turbo Liners, are quite fun to look at, and there is a cab ride aboard them as well. All this, combined with gorgeous views of the Hudson River, is something for every rail fan to enjoy. Here's yet another combo DVD, Amtrak Across America. The first part is Amtrak's 25th anniversary, originally released in 1996. I don't have much to say about it. The second part, however, is Amtrak's X2000 demonstration, which is what I absolutely enjoy. For those of you who are not familiar, the X2000 was a high-speed electric train set that was once borrowed from Sweden to experiment with high-speed rail on Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. Recorded in 1993, this video is a very well-detailed look at this train with all the amazing innovations such as car body tilting, radial self-steering trucks, and regenerative braking. It's a fantastic look at what American high-speed rail was like before the Acela Express. Highly recommended. Here's the first single-program DVD on my list, the Amtrak Chief. This was captured by a Super 8 film camera in summer 1972. Because Amtrak took over most passenger services across the nation, the red and silver F units were leased from the Santa Fe Railway to run the Super Chief El Capitan train from Los Angeles to Chicago. This DVD is only 40 minutes long, but it's decent. Now we go to the first volume of an elaborate series, At the Throttle Cab Ride Volume 1, the San Bernardino Subdivision. The journey begins at the BNSF Railway's Hobart Yard in Los Angeles, and the camera is placed at the very front of the leading locomotive pulling a heavy intermodal train. It then continues as far as the city of San Bernardino, plus a few Metrolink commuter trains. A super fun ride for any rail fan. And here's Volume 2, the Cajon Subdivision. Traveling from Devore to Barstow, California, we take another ride on the BNSF Intermodal, climbing up steep grades at Cajon Pass and carefully descending from the summit. For much of the journey, we see a third main track under construction and lots of tractor-trailer dump trucks. It's certainly worth a watch for anyone who wants to travel through the mountains. At the Throttle, Volume 3, Train Meets. This is a compilation of cab rides mixed with opposing trains on parallel tracks, allowing a variety of locomotive types to see. Like the previous two volumes, this one takes place in Southern California. Not only do we see other BNSF trains, but we also find Union Pacific, Kansas City Southern, and Amtrak. The fourth volume of the series is the Alameda Corridor, a freight line running from Hobart Yard to the seaports of LA and Long Beach. One of the hallmarks of this video is the 10-mile long, 33-foot deep trench. It was designed to accommodate heavy intermodal traffic below ground level, eliminating long grade crossing waits from motorists. It somewhat reminds me of the Lincoln Tunnel in New York City or the Goddard Railway Tunnel in Switzerland. Incredible. Volume 5, The Surf Line. This region would never be called the Surf Line without the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Because some of the footage was recorded in San Diego, we can see a few coaster and sprinter commuter trains of the North County Transit District. If you want to see some beaches during your virtual train ride, then this DVD might be the right choice for you. The sixth and final volume of At the Throttle is A Railroader's Perspective. For most of the series, the camera is placed in front of a leading locomotive, inside the cab, or on board a trailing unit. But sometimes, the camera is mounted on several unusual spots around the train. For example, on the roof line, on the walkway, and even beside the locomotive truck. We also take a deeper look at the coupling action as well as the brake shoes. This is a spectacular video that gives you a much closer look at the busy action of a train, from the revolution of the wheels to the plume of diesel exhaust, something that you're not so likely to visit otherwise. I know there is a box set containing all 6 DVDs of At the Throttle, but it was not part of the Pentrex overstock sale from Train Video Depot. I ended up buying the individual discs, which thankfully were in stock by the time I placed my order. They do have their own colorful covers, compared to the box set that only has a single cover, I think. Next is The Blue Mountains Combo, Volumes 1 to 3, a Video Rails production. This is one of the last 4 DVDs I bought from Railfan Depot. Shot in the early 1990s, the Blue Mountains program has a nice variety of Union Pacific power, including then new safety cab SD60Ms and C40-8Ws from EMD and GE, respectively. This mountain range can be treacherous, especially during winter, but whoever recorded all this footage must be very brave in those brutal conditions. It's really worth watching after so much effort. Here's some Chicago area flavor. Burlington Northern E-units along the racetrack. A retrospective of the former Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy E9 diesels that once carried people from Aurora, Illinois, to the Windy City's Union Station. The racetrack is a nickname given to the triple-track main line spanning 36 miles out of Chicago. It's a wonderful presentation of early 6-axle commuter locomotives performing their duties before the blue and red Metra F40PH units came along. Thanks to these video recordings, the E units can be seen again and again. Make way for the Daylight Freedom Special, another DVD from my last Railfan Depot order. I had to get this one to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, aka the semi-quincentennial. As most of you know, this patriotically decorated steam locomotive is the Southern Pacific GS4 Daylight number 4449. It was repainted red, white, and blue to pull the American Freedom Train, which commemorated the nation's 200th birthday, or bicentennial, in 1976. However, this program was recorded in March 2002 because the engine returned to its patriotic colors as a tribute to the fallen victims of the September 11th attacks back in 2001. Fun fact, some of the footage is also seen in the 12th episode of I Love Toy Trains, produced by TM Books and Video. Pentrex is credited in this TM production. Anytime I play the Daylight Freedom Special DVD, I'll always remember Toy Trains number 12 that I watched so many times as a kid. Here's Kansas City Southern, the most recently fallen Class 1 railroad, as it merged with the Canadian Pacific Railway to form the CPKC in 2023. I had one personal issue with this DVD. When I took it out of its shrink wrap and opened the case, it inexplicably contained a Pearl Harbor history disc, which is not a Pentrex production at all. I immediately had to contact Train Video Depot for assistance. At first, I emailed the dealer, but decided to use its telephone number a few days later. The customer service person did answer the call and was aware of the incorrect disc. He initially told me that all the available KCS DVDs contained the same exact Pearl Harbor disc, and thought the correct copies were out of stock. So I'm guessing that Pentrex outsources distribution to a facility that makes copies of numerous titles from multiple publishers, and there must have been a mix-up between KCS and Pearl Harbor. However, shortly after our phone call, Train Video Depot emailed me that they miraculously did have at least one copy of the real KCS disc. They packed it in a flat envelope and mailed it through an untracked letter service. Then, as soon as I inserted the DVD into the machine, the video played flawlessly, to my relief. So, problem solved. This program was recorded in 1990 when KCS showed nothing but EMD locomotives to any rail fan. It also has some interesting motive power facts, so I recommend watching it. Memories of KCS will never disappear. Hola from Mexico's Pacifico Railroad, my first Pentrex DVD that takes place in Mexico. In terms of motive power, I like the old General Electric Dash 7 diesels, as well as the rebuilt Super 7s that resemble the Dash 8 series. There is also plenty of action from Alco and Montreal locomotives. And of course, we see the last of the ever-beloved Alco PA units in operation. If you're interested in some Mexican trains, then this DVD is a must for your video library. Here's another fallen flag railroad, Missouri, Kansas, Texas, or MKT for short, which led to the popular nickname Katy. Similar to the Kansas City Southern program, this video shows mostly EMD power, painted green and yellow. There is also a hint of the older red paint, as well as several ex-Conrail units. This is a faithful tribute to the Katy, as it was videotaped just before its absorption into the Union Pacific Railroad. Up next is Pittsburgh Main Lines, the last hurrah of Conrail action around the Iron City. Now, this particular video was produced by Iron Horse America, a Pentrex affiliate. Adding to Pittsburgh's rich history of steel is an industrial line called the Union Railroad, evidenced by diesel switchers that are regularly hooked up as multiple units to pull heavy local trains to and from the steel mill. Other railroads captured in the city include CSX and Amtrak. This DVD is your opportunity to revisit Conrail during its last months before Norfolk Southern acquired the Pittsburgh routes of the Big Blue. Soldier Summit Assault. So this DVD has some very interesting moments, especially with several unusual locomotives on the Utah Railway. There were 5 Australian-built EMD SD50s and 6 of the only MK5000C units ever built by Morrison Knudsen. While this program was videotaped, the MK5000s were originally powered by their 12-cylinder Caterpillar engines. These were later rebuilt with EMD prime movers. The main workhorses of the Utah Railway were the SD40s, which were frequently assigned to helper duty up the Wasatch Plateau. Combining steep climbs with oddball diesels, Soldier Summit Assault is a fantastic show to watch. Southern Pacific Cab Forward Collection. I bought this DVD from Railfan Depot in April 2025, and I originally did a mini review as a YouTube short. The collection features all 11 classes of the Baldwin-built 4882 articulated consolidation cab forwards, the Lima-built 2884 AC9 class, and early pre-production cab forwards. Of course, it's nice to see the only survivor of the entire fleet being preserved at the California State Railroad Museum. Pentrex did a fabulous job compiling old motion pictures and still photos of the nearly extinct cab-forward steam locomotives. Here's another Southern Pacific DVD, the Daylight Collection. There's no better daylight train without the fan-favorite GS series of 484 steamers built by the Lima Locomotive Works. Lots of colorful footage were contributed by various donors, including the Southern Pacific Railroad. A black and white promotional film from the 1930s is also featured. It's fascinating to see the daylights in revenue service many years before number 4449 became the lone survivor. Steam 98. I got this DVD as a free item from Railfan Depot in July 2024 when I purchased the Union Pacific Big Boy collection, which I'll get to a little later. I don't have much to say about Steam 98, but it does include some of your favorite locomotives, such as SP 4449, the never retired Union Pacific 844, and Milwaukee Road 261. Here's an awesome train video, Street Running. I bought it at the same time as Steam 98 and the Big Boy collection. When it comes to trains on the streets, we often think of streetcars, trolleys, or even tram engines, but there are some towns that do allow long, heavy freight trains through the streets. I think my personal favorite is 11th Street in Michigan City, Indiana, because I remember seeing it from another TM production, I Love Big Trains. Unfortunately, they can be noisy and difficult for the public, especially those residents who are not into railroading. Still, it's fun to see any type of train, whether short or long, running over the pavement with the two rails exposed. Sunrise Sunset 2. A Day at Rochelle, Illinois. Rochelle is home to America's first official railroad park as a local subsidy for visitors to watch trains. Although the park seemed unnecessary and laughable, the town does have its own significant history of two railroads that later became Chicago and Northwestern and the Burlington route. Ken Wise, Rochelle's Director of Economic Development, was the man who conceived the project. I personally never traveled to Rochelle, but this DVD is certainly worth watching if you haven't been there either. I do not have the first volume of Sunrise Sunset, A Day at Gibbon Junction, because it was not part of the Pentrex overstock sale that I mentioned earlier. Eventually, I may consider getting this DVD to fill in the gap. Sunrise Sunset 3. Cincinnati. This is yet another DVD from my last Railfan Depot order. Since the Rochelle video shows Union Pacific and BNSF trains in action, there's a nice mix of CSX and Norfolk Southern trains running through Cincinnati, Ohio. We also see some ex-Conrail units still painted blue, lease units like FURX, and a delayed Amtrak Cardinal that normally runs through Cincinnati at night. Some other unusual trains appear in this video: the Tropicana Juice Train, the Triple Crown Road Railer train, and even a rail grinder train. You'll find more surprises in Cincy when you watch this DVD. Here's another great fallen flag. Today's Illinois Central, Volume 1, the northern route from Chicago to Fulton, Kentucky. The word today can be misleading to some of you because this was videotaped in 1996, but the Illinois Central was eventually merged into the Canadian National Railway in 1999. Regardless, I enjoy learning about the IC locomotives, especially the GP units that were rebuilt in Paducah, Kentucky. I also like the low-nose SD70s, the last EMD locomotives built before the wide cab design became the norm for freight duty. While the word today seems outdated in the title, the days of the IC can still be revisited with this DVD. And here's Volume 2 of today's Illinois Central, the southern route from Fulton to New Orleans. Interestingly, it was not uncommon to see long strings of tank cars on the IC because it used to provide service for the Chemical Coast. Contrary to what most people think, the state of Mississippi does have its own hills, and the trains work hard up steep grades to Jackson. As the railroad now hauls exclusively freight, there are a couple of Amtrak passenger trains on this route. If you want to see what was unique about the main line of Mid-America in its last years, then both volumes may answer your questions. Trains Along the Upper Mississippi, Volume 1, Canadian Pacific's River Subdivision. There is no waterway longer than the mighty Mississippi River in the United States. In this volume, the journey begins near La Crosse, Wisconsin, crosses the river-covered border into Minnesota, and stretches about 138 miles to St. Paul. The line was originally operated by the Milwaukee Road and later the Sioux Line, so there were some locomotives painted in the former's orange and black scheme as well as the latter's red and white scheme. I like some of Canadian Pacific's then recently delivered AC 4400 units that were fresh from GE, and also the railroad's only full-width cowl-body fleet, the SD40-2F, aka the Red Barns, 25 of which were built by General Motors' Diesel Division of Canada. All this, combined with beautiful scenery, makes up Volume 1. And here's Volume 2, BNSF's St. Croix Subdivision. Formerly part of the Burlington route, the line is essentially located on the eastern side of the Mississippi, compared to CP's River Sub on the western side. This video shows a pretty good variety of locomotives, including then new GE-9s, a single EMD GP30, and even a trio of old GP20s hauling grain. Funnily enough, some bald eagles are seen along the river, while an SD60M, number 1991, sports the patriotic Desert Storm scheme, which honored the U.S. military during the Gulf War. In addition to the trains, we see some tugboats hauling barges, and a paddle boat providing cruises on the river. The sight of the Mississippi is spectacular at any time of the year in Volumes 1 and 2. The last 4 Pentrex DVDs we come to on our list focus on Union Pacific trains. So here's the UP Big Boy Collection, the ultimate show featuring all 25 steam locomotives of the only 4884 articulated class. As I said earlier, I bought it from Railfan Depot in July 2024. The completeness of this DVD would never be possible without footage from a 35mm color film that Pentrex successfully discovered. While most of the footage dates to the 1950s, there's also some that were recorded during World War II when the big boys were put to service immediately after delivery. If you're a true big boy enthusiast but do not have this DVD, I highly recommend watching it. Pentrex did an amazing job combining all the footage. Next is Union Pacific Streamliner Collection, the 4th DVD from my final Railfan Depot order. This program covers the history of diesel-powered streamline trains, starting in 1934 with the M10000, which was technically powered by a distillate engine. We also find 2 experimental GE steam turbine electric locomotives as presented in 1939, the General Motors Train of Tomorrow in 1947, and the GM Aero Train from 1956. Since then, UP had beefed up its passenger fleet with streamlined covered wagon diesels from Electromotive, Alco, and even Fairbanks Morse. The collection finishes with the railroad's final City of Los Angeles trains, both westbound and eastbound, respectively, arriving and departing at the LA Union Passenger Terminal in 1971. Another fine job on this vintage UP collection. The final 2 Pentrex DVDs in my updated collection focus on Union Pacific's Marysville Subdivision. I bought them in used condition at the National Capital Trolley Museum in Colesville, Maryland. August 2024 was my second time volunteering with the National Capital Trackers O-Gauge train group at the museum, so that's how I found these 2. Volume 1 begins at Gibbon, Nebraska, and continues as far as Marysville, Kansas. At the time it was videotaped, Union Pacific's newest locomotives were the GE AC4400s, as well as the convertible EMD SD90 Max. You can also see at least one convertible GE AC6000 in this video. This is a nice mix of old and new power hauling coal, intermodal containers, and general freight. And ending my Pentrex DVD showcase is Volume 2 of the Marysville sub. We resume our journey at Marysville, which serves as a crew change point for UP employees, and then follow the line eastward to Kansas City. Not a whole lot to say about this video, but I still like it. Alright, we finished looking at every Pentrex DVD in this update since my previous collection video. But this video you're watching is not over without my list of Green Frog videos. Although I have only 6 DVDs, it feels wrong for me to not show them since Pentrex absorbed Green Frog. R.I.P. Anyway, please stay tuned for the next chapter and be my guest for a tribute to Green Frog Productions. My first experience with Green Frog began in late December of 2018 when I ordered 4 DVDs directly from the producer. As before, I'm going to list these titles in alphabetical order. Now, unfortunately for those of you who may be interested, not all Green Frog DVDs are currently in stock on the Pentrex website. I'll tell you which titles are still available as I go through each of them. Let's begin. First up is General Motors Locomotives, manufacturer to mainline. There are 3 different programs originally produced by an Ontario-based company called CanRail Video Productions. The first is Birth of a Locomotive, where we see how GM Diesel Division builds the F59 PH units for GO Transit. It's always fun to learn how these machines are designed, assembled, painted, and tested. The second program is Onboard Go 558, where we take a cab ride on an F59 during a typical commuter run in the Toronto area. And lastly, the third is GM Locomotives, a montage of various engines hauling freight and passenger trains. I couldn't find this DVD on the Pentrex website, so it might not be in stock. It's a shame though. I really enjoy not only the manufacturing and operation of the F59 PH diesels, but also the valuable history of electromotive in both the US and Canada. I hope Pentrex will bring it back someday. Who knows? Next is New Jersey Transit Push-Pull, a NEF video production. Similar to Pentrex, Green Frog used to own some smaller separate brands like CanRail, American Alta Vista, and in this case, NEF Video. This DVD has a fair mix of motive power, including GP40 and F40 diesels, as well as the E60 electrics. Other than that, not much to say about it. This title is currently not in stock, but again, I hope Pentrex considers bringing it back at some point. Here's an amazing compilation DVD, Quick Shots 2, originally produced by American Alta Vista. I bought this from Railfan Depot in May 2022. There are so many locomotive reviews covered in this program. The GE C40-8W for CSX, the EMD SD70M demo unit, the AC Traction SD60 Mac, the GE Genesis for Amtrak, and 2 operating steamers, including the Norfolk & Western 484 Class J number 611, and the Southern Railway 282 Mikado, number 4501. The Swedish X2000 and the German Intercity Express train sets are featured as well. There are also a few railroads mentioned, like the fallen Monongahela Railway, the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac, now part of CSX, and the Virginia Railway Express. Much like a video magazine, Quick Shots has just about everything related to trains. This DVD is currently not in stock. I guess Pentrex hasn't put up any titles that were produced by Alta Vista, CanRail, or even Neff Productions, but that could probably change. Next is Rails Buffalo. I actually did not order this DVD in the first place. When I received my order from Green Frog, I was supposed to have the Road Railers title. I'll get to that in a minute. But it did not show up. Instead, the Buffalo disc was accidentally sent to me. I emailed Green Frog about this issue, and they sent me a nice reply. I asked the producer if I could pay for the wrong title rather than shipping it back, but nope, he allowed me to keep it as sort of an apology for the mistake while sending the Road Railers disc that I asked for. Although I didn't intend to collect this DVD, it's actually pretty good after I watched it. This title is available for purchase on the Pentrex website. And now for the Road Railers. As I said, Green Frog promised to send this DVD after responding to my complaint. But alas, I faced another problem because it still didn't arrive for more than 2 weeks. I emailed Green Frog again, and he honestly told me that he completely forgot to ship this disc. As a second apology, he decided to send it via priority mail. Now, don't let my issues with Green Frog prevent you from buying anything. Mistakes happen. I don't care whether they will, but what I do care is how they are properly handled. And Green Frog had absolutely sympathetic customer service addressing these problems, so don't get me wrong. The Road Railers is a fantastic show, starting with the loading and unloading of the Triple Crown trailers. There's also a vintage film about the earliest road railer design by the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway. The DVD finishes with a tour of the Wabash National Factory that manufactures the modern trailers. This is another great title available for purchase, and I recommend watching it if you're interested. The very last DVD we come to in my updated collection is Rockets and Rails, the NASA Railroad. As unusual as it seems, a railroad is unquestionably vital to the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. This short line uses a fleet of 3 electromotive SW-1500 switchers to haul the solid rocket booster sections, which ride on heavy-duty flat cars and are protected by the orange covers. Although this video focuses on the railroad, you can see the launching of the NASA Space Shuttle and some footage from outer space. A bird's eye view allows you to see the entire spaceport. What a spectacular sight! Thanks to the reliability of the NASA Railroad, the space program has no major problem lifting the shuttle beyond the Earth's atmosphere. And yes, this DVD is available on the Pentrex website. So there you have it, the whole showcase of my DVDs from Pentrex and Green Frog. Oh, I almost forgot something extra. This is Maintenance of Way, Yesterday and Today, from Gandy Dancers to Concrete Ties, my one and only Green Frog VHS tape. In August 2022, I traveled to Brunswick, Maryland to visit the Brunswick Heritage Museum, where an HO scale train layout is located. I found this tape at the museum's gift shop, along with a couple of Pentrex items, the Fallen Flag series combo DVD, and a VHS copy of the 20th Century Limited on TV. In fact, I reviewed both of them in my original Pentrex collection video. It's so amazing to see a few remaining VHS tapes like this during the 2020s, long after DVDs replaced them. There is a DVD version of this Green Frog tape, and I need to collect it at some point. The title was renamed I've Been Working on the Railroad for some reason, but I believe it should be the same program, as indicated by the same cover photo and the same running time. Well, I hope you've enjoyed seeing my updated Pentrex and Green Frog collection. As I said at the beginning, I recommend watching my original Pentrex collection from 2024. You'll find out the actual number of DVDs I own when combined with the newer editions. So, what else should I collect? Well, I'm pretty much happy with all the DVDs I own, although I do need a few more to bridge some gaps. As I showed you before, I need to get Sunrise Sunset Volume 1. Actually, there are 4 volumes of this series, the 4th of which is A Day at Fullerton, California. I should collect that too. However, Pentrex has uploaded a lot of full programs onto its official YouTube channel, including all 4 episodes of Sunrise Sunset. That's a nice thing about train video producers these days, because you can watch some of them for free with several YouTube ads. Even so, I have to agree that nothing beats physical media for many reasons, and I still should get the DVD versions of Gibbon Junction and Fullerton for consistency, not to mention their colorful covers. As for Green Frog, I hope Pentrex will restock some of the missing titles I've mentioned so that you can have the opportunity to watch them. Anything is possible. Green Frog will always be cherished by rail fans, both young and old. To stay on topic with this video, my pick of the month is something you're probably familiar with if you're a true Pentrex enthusiast. This is an episode of a railroad podcast called The Roundhouse, hosted by Nick Ozarak. In this one, he interviews Dave Drury, the narrator of Pentrex.
Visit Pentrex on the World Wide Web at www.pentrex.com.
Yes, he is the off-screen voice in so many train videos. In fact, he used to work with radio production, which is evidently why his voice sounds so professional. So I recommend listening to the interview. Link to the podcast is in the description. There's also a YouTube version of the podcast uploaded by Nick, and I'll add the link to that as well. One last thing before I end this video is to briefly explain my disclaimer that you've already seen at the very beginning, just to clear any misconceptions. For every video I upload to La Rosa's Trains, I always classify them as not made for kids, because I specifically want the comments section to be available for any discussion relevant to my interests. As some of you probably know, if any YouTube video is labeled as made for kids, the comments are automatically turned off, which is kind of annoying. Now, just because I suggest parental guidance doesn't mean this video contains objectionable content. For instance, I do not necessarily use any profanity whatsoever. The real reason is that the intended audience for this and all my other videos are adult rail fans and hobbyists, as well as some teenage fans. Much of the information I post may therefore be too complicated and uninteresting for young children, but who knows? Most importantly, I want all my videos to be enjoyable for the whole family and not restricted to a certain age group, kids or adults. These are all the reasons you'll see the disclaimer in every video I post from this day on. So, I hope this is understandable to all of you, but let me know your thoughts. That's what the comments section is for. If you'd like to support La Rosa's trains, I would greatly appreciate it. That can be done through my Patreon page at patreon.com/LaRosasTrains. Patrons will receive exclusive benefits, which are all explained directly on this page. Link in the description. Your contribution, regardless of your preferred membership, is essential not only to me, but to the future of La Rosa's Trains. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can see what's coming up next from this channel. Anyway, that's all for now, and as always, thanks for watching. I'm Brian La Rosa, and I'll see you next time.